Tune in to the Wallace Redd Show / Love Power. Here we discuss all of the relevant issues, everything from the sublime to the ridiculous. We make the sublime clear. We make the ridiculous make sense. Every Sunday, it used to be 11 a.m., but today it's 12. Every Sunday, WMQM, 16 a.m. on your radio dial. If you want to call, get on the phone, 901-327-3400, because we have guest speakers who are exciting. If you don't believe it, just wait a second. Interesting, fascinating, and knowledgeable. Give us a call if you want to get on the phone. Call us right here at 901-644-0186, or you can call 327-3400. Call somebody. Here we debate all of the issues. We take positions. We define and defend those positions. We offer analysis and pose solutions to the problems that we face in the African American community. Call somebody. Providing leadership, Vox Populi, the voice of the people. Get on your phone, get on Facebook, because we know the world is a much smaller place today. Get on Twitter, Instagram. In fact, in the studio we have today Sister Ayodele Kofie. We're going to continue with our discussion of Nguzo Saba. Is that right, Sister Ayodele?
It certainly is.
But first I want to mention a few people. And as usual, we have in the studio with us Brother Dr. Talut, El-Amin. And you can reach him also at Talut, his Twitter account. Check out his book. Also, give us a call. I want to mention my friend Milton, on the spot, used tires and fix it flat. Located at Getwell, 1684 Getwell. Do not forget about Marcus Garvey Institute and Learning Center. Located on Parkway in Lauderdale. Call or go by. See Brother Jabril Shabazz, 643-6271. Also on Hollywood, Alvin's Tire and Tree Service. Located at 1211 North Hollywood Street. The best in town, Tire and Tree Service. Alvin Walker, 503-5762. Ed Wesley on Merton in Hollywood. A Beyond's Tree Service and Tire Shop. Bad tire, Alvin says, I'll come to you. Mobile tire service, 13-inch, 28-inch, new and used tires. Alvin Walker, once again, 503-5762. 1211 North Hollywood Street. Best prices in town, he says. And now, we will go to Sister Ayodele Kofie, and she will tell us more about herself and what she's going to talk about and why she's going to talk about it. Sister Ayodele.
Good morning, brothers. It's a pleasure to be here. My name is Ayodele Kofie. I'm an educator here in the Memphis school system. Before I came to Memphis, I lived in Ghana, West Africa, for approximately 13 years, and I have made Memphis my community for the last 12 to 13 years now. And it's a pleasure to be here today. What I want to talk about is a little bit about the Nguzo Saba, along with the previous wonderful speakers who were on your program earlier this morning. They were part of Kwanzaa International. I also am part of a Kwanzaa group called the Mid-South Kwanzaa. I'm part of an organization called Grassroots. I'm part of an organization entitled Blue Nile Toastmasters, as well as a Abule Fa African Dance and Drumming Group. We want to talk about Nguzo Saba today.
Okay.
How relevant it is for Africans here in America.
And the first one is unity, right?
Yes,
Okay.
Umoja.
Umoja, okay.
Well, we talk about unity because...
That's Swahili, is that right?
It is.
Okay.
It is. It's Swahili.
Before we get into it, let me ask you. This was created by Dr. Karanga.
Yes,
Maulana Karanga, right?
Yes, it was.
Okay.
Late 60s.
In the late 60s, right.
So we've been celebrating it from that time forward.
Okay.
And we believe that Kwanzaa is evolving. It is being re-sparked in the community because we want more and more people to incorporate it into their lives.
Okay.
We're calling on the community and anyone who is of African descent to incorporate this into your life. We say 365 black, not just 7 days after the Christmas holidays. We say 365 black. There are 7 days of Kwanzaa, there are 7 days in the week. We're asking you to think about a principle, practice a principle every day.
Okay. The first one is unity. So talk about unity in terms of, let's talk about the Memphis area. Unity in Memphis. And I'd like to say let's keep it in the category of the group of people in Memphis who wear African clothes, have African names, who are conscious, myself included. We read books, we discuss things, and I just screamed out some things that we do, talking about leadership, and I've got the solution. Hey, we challenge, so does unity exist? And let's take the whole spectrum then. Come to think about it. Does unity in the sense that it's productive? Because it may be impossible to say unity, complete, perfected unity. Does enough unity exist within this group of people that we're talking about? Or does unity of group exist to the degree that it should within the regular community? The people who are out, the young men with the pants hanging down, throwing trash on the ground, and shooting and doing unproductive things. Can you talk with us about that?
Well, obviously, you know that unity is something that the community has to strive to work for. It is something that you have to work on. You can't just wake up one morning and say, I'm going to be in unity with everyone. First of all, it has to come from a mindset. If you don't have an African-centered point of view, then perhaps you don't understand what you should be doing. You may be controlled by other forces, you may be distracted, you may be confused, and I would say misinformed or miseducated. When we talk about unity, first of all, you must understand you are an African person who is a descendant of a slave that was brought here under chattel slavery. We have been so-called freed since 1862, January 1st, 1863. So when we talk about unity, we can't say that the African community here in Memphis is totally unified, but many of us have a unity of thought. We need to get to the unity of action. We're asking people to understand. Look at our condition. Look at our communities. Look at the economics of our community. I would say Memphis is 90% African. Do we have power? Is power shown through our economics, the education system? And I maintain for everybody to have those conversations.
Okay. Yeah. When you say, and I'm going to go to you, Talut. When you say, you spoke on African-centered perspective, and I also asked about a particular group of people who would be revolutionary, if you will. Does that African-centered perspective exist among this group of people that I'm talking about?
I believe it does.
You think it does?
I believe it does, but there are many African-centered individuals who may put their focus in different organizations, but we still have a unity of thought. We still know that we are African people. We still know that there is a need for us to organize. There's a need for us to build our economics. There's a need for us to educate our children in a better way. So we do have a unity.
Okay, I agree with you on the need.
Yeah. Well,
Dr. Talut, go ahead.
When I think of unity, I simply think of trade and commerce only. I don't think of unity in no other way, shape, form, or fashion. Just trade and commerce. And from trade and commerce brings a great deal of more value and worth. Okay, but the problem is within the black community, the African American community, the black American community, I see that definition varies. Okay, and so what I would like to know is, what is your definition of unity? Or is there a definition that we can all work towards or work with?
I think that's a wonderful question. For me, I agree with you. Economics would be one thing that has to be talked about. There has to be plans put in place. When we talk about unity, let us create this scenario.
Okay.
Let's talk about Oklahoma, Wall Street. I was told by a very prolific scholar that in order for them to have created that wealth, they kept the money within the community at least a year circulating. So it went from the consumer to the producer to the manufacturer before that money left the community and went, let's say, outside.
Okay.
The money in our community lasts less than 15 minutes. So if you're talking about creating wealth, supporting one another, creating jobs for ourselves, building businesses, making sure that we have the power to manufacture. No, we are not at that point.
Okay.
But
No,
what
go
is
ahead,
it going to take? It needs people who have skills to take on an African perspective. If you look at other cultures, let's use our brothers and sisters who are of the Hispanic race. They come, they're young men, they're women, they will train next to somebody who has an expertise. Maybe they'll be trained for 2 to 3 years before they are let on, and then they become masters in themselves. Our young men and women, do we have the elders who are teaching them? Because at one point in time, when we came out of slavery, we had to teach ourselves the vocations, the woodworking, the plumbing, the electricity. It isn't just about people being in offices. We need men and women who are going to work with their hands, who are going to be creative, who are going to build cars, repair cars, electricity, computers. We have a whole nation to build, and everybody should be productive in it.
Okay. You mentioned, seems like the Hispanics come up as a prototype or a model just about every show. We've highlighted the Hispanics on more than one occasion. But Dr. Talut, sounds like I hear you when you talk about trade and commerce. I hear you talking about doing business as a projected goal and taking the emotions out of it.
Sure.
In other words, there are a lot of emotions taking place among even this group that I'm highlighting, the conscious group.
Right.
We're gonna suffice it to say the conscious group.
Right.
Emotions. But if you're doing business like technical people, highly sophisticated people, unity can be created by consolidating these ideas that the sister is talking about. But there are a lot of emotion going on that get in the way. But to make an attempt to answer your question, I think you asked what it takes. I think it takes courage and consistency. I want to tell you about an experience yesterday. Yesterday, a group of young men and African Americans standing on the corner, near where I live. Young man is eating his corn chips, and, probably coming out of one of those corner stores. Black bag, he takes the bag out, throws it on the ground, eats his chips, throws it on the ground. And so I said, who had this trash on the street? So he lies and said, something, man, that fool going down there, man, he had to bag it through it. And I said, I'm looking at you, I saw you with it. So I say to them, I don't mind you standing here, but help me keep this area clean. But not one, what is so strange to me, not one of them said, volunteer, well, yeah, man, you know you're wrong, you know you're lying, but I will pick the trash up. And I'm pointing to the trash all on the curb and everything, but not one of them. So then when you ask, especially young men, where's your dad? Oh man, he locked up, he in jail. He so-and-so. I haven't seen, man, I haven't seen him do it, I don't know how long. So this is problematic. So later that evening, I see a bigger scenario where young men, African Americans, hanging out, having fun, that's fine with me, but you're throwing your chips, your bags, your cookies right down at your feet, and you're standing up and you're walking, into that. So to address that, it requires courage and consistency, and that addressing that unity issue, going into education, that whole campaign of what must be done. Go ahead, Doctor.
Well, the thing about trade and commerce, it does build industry. I mean, it builds industry and it builds unity as well. Because when you think about it, the word businessman, okay, the word is really busy.
Right.
A busy man.
Right.
Okay. And when you approach a busy man, you really have to approach him as far as trading a certain way. And he has to approach you a certain way. And in that approach, the first thing you would do is shake hands, because you're going to have to get to know one another. Right? And once you get to know one another, you don't want that business to leave. You want that business to stay right there with you and him or her. Okay? So you put that on a larger scale. We have to do business to learn one another, to appreciate one another, and keep the money among us. And that builds unity. Okay? And we'll unify on a whole lot of other areas if we can get our money together. But if we can't get our money together, we don't trust one another. You understand what I'm saying?
Yes.
I don't trust you because we don't have any money ties whatsoever. Once we get the money ties and we realize that money is helping us and helping our community and our people and our nation, then we'll learn to trust one another. We'll say, hey, I know this man. I've been doing business with this man and woman for 20 years. I know them. I know their character.
Well, you also, another thing that's required would be, in that regard, I think, would be discipline. Go ahead, sister.
Absolutely.
Well, I was going to even take it to a different level.
Okay.
I'm talking, when you talk about unity and you talk about business and you talk about economics, I want to talk a little bit about power.
Yes.
Power coming from the raw materials. Everybody in the world is still plucking from Mother Africa. Everybody in the world is getting the raw materials, the cloth, the spices, the so-called precious minerals, the diamonds, the rubies, the tea, all of it.
That is true.
There are other sources. We have Brazil, we have Puerto Rico, we have Panama. Most of the people in those countries look like us. They are the descendants of enslaved Africans. We need to think globally and act locally. If you talk about power, manufacturing, business development, we're talking about having the vision to reach your hand out knowing that you are an African. We have the same history, just different locations, and being able to open up and understand who these other brothers and sisters are, get the raw materials, do business, as you're saying, and create our power base and let it spread. We're talking about an economic system for African people, and that is a dangerous, dangerous message that we're trying to send.
I see. Very good. I want to highlight Sister Desi X before we go to our next question, which would be Kuji Chakalia. Sister Desi X, 901-277-5912, located at 975 Thomas Street, the House of Knowledge. She has pre-class. 3-, 4-, and 5-year-olds are operating at the level of 1st, 2nd, and 3rd grade. Go see Sister, put your child in pre-care. Sister Desi X, everybody. Last but not least, we're talking about Africa. Here's one right here. Brother Omar Mimra and his wife, Sister Malima, they crisscrossed the country building a network that will sustain and support economic development. We thank them for their work and their effort crisscrossing the country. Sister Ayodele, let's go now. Let's hit Kuji Chakalia.
Self-determination. I just discussed self-determination when I talked about trying to reach out to what we call the diaspora, being internationalists, African internationalists. When you talk about self-determination, we talk about creating schools that are going to talk, teach, and build our children the way they should be built. If you know anything that's going on, if you are concerned about the education that's coming into Memphis now, the schools that are being closed, our children are being miseducated. It is a national movement. I think it's by design. They know that 90% of all public school children look like us, and I don't think that they're invested in the education of our children. Our children need to be told who they are. They need to be taught skills. They need to be taught how to be entrepreneurs, not people who are going to work for somebody. I think that self-determination, we create our holidays. If we want to create a holiday that highlights Ida B. Wells, that highlights Malcolm X, that highlights, we'll say Marcus Garvey, we have the right to do that as an African people in this nation who built it. We don't need permission, but we have people who do not want to support those ideas. Our children need images of heroes and sheroes who look like them, and so that they can be better prepared to be world citizens. We are people who gave everything to the world. And because of the great Ma'afa, which is another Swahili word that means the great destruction, we have been turned around, and our priorities have been somewhat misplaced. And I think that by incorporating Nguza Saba into your daily life, 365 black, we can make a step towards a redemption.
A couple quick points. We're talking about the school system. A sociologist was talking the other day, and this person is of European persuasion, talking about the public school system at its initial stage was designed to not teach or educate, but to have students conform and learn how to work and not become those things that you guys are talking about. One quick question, we're coming close, we got a few more to cover, but when we talk about distrust, now we're talking about the children and their education. What role does love play in this equation? Do we not only distrust each other, but do we love each other? And both of you starting with you, Doctor.
Yeah. Well, my
talk about that.
Yeah. My thoughts about that is really simple. If we're going to engage in trade and commerce, then we should think in terms of the cost that has to be invested in trade and commerce. And the cost is great. Sometimes it is your life. But who cares? Who cares about that? We have to achieve the goal regardless. And one thing is this about Memphis, we want to keep this centered around Memphis.
Right.
If we as black men and women don't take charge, we're going to lose Memphis. See, we have to take charge. And the reason we have to take charge is because we're in a better position to do it. They have had their chance, right? Our city is sinking. Okay, now we can take charge and save it. Now, one thing we could do is we can ask our brothers and sisters who are downtown, to pay close attention to what we're doing, and don't stop us. Don't tell us we can't do this, we can't do that. Okay, let us go to Brazil. Let us go to Africa. Let us bring back our commodities and products. And brothers and sisters downtown with the authority and the power, okay, let us do that. Don't penalize us before we get started, because we're going to do it.
Yeah.
Okay, this is just a notice. We're going to do it. And don't penalize us. Don't knock us down before we get started. Okay. Let us get some money first, then turn around and charge, and we can pay for it.
Okay. All right. Serving notice. Dr. Talut, serving notice. Go ahead, Sister.
Well,
Ayodele.
I believe that you have a very good point, because love, first of all, starts with self. I submit to you again, if you do not know who you are, you do not know where you're going. First of all, you have to love yourself as an African. You have to love yourself as that melanated, what we call tightly curled hair, thick lips, and beautiful skinned individual. And when you look in the mirror, there must be much love. And when you look at somebody that looks like you, there should be a reflection of love. What we don't see is that we have a lot of wonderful children who are creative, and for whatever reason, the love of self does not reflect. The love of our people is not reflected in the education. Well, let's just say the love of Africa and African people anywhere in this country is not reflected. We don't see it, so we have to create the opportunities to teach ourselves to always tell our children that they're loved, that they're creative, that there's something, because they don't get it. They don't get it on all those wonderful those games, those demonic games that they're playing, the internet. They don't see those things. They have to hear it from the elders. They have to hear it from us.
Well, you mentioned creativity. Touch on Kaumba. We're coming down to a couple of minutes. Touch on, do we have enough time? I'm going to let you close this out. Touch on Kaumba. That's creativity, right?
Creativity, our children have so much of it, but they're stifled. The way the educational system is now, the creativity is going to be stifled. We need, my plea is that the community rise up, take back your schools, create community schools, support Marcus Garvey, what we call alternative schools, because the public education system is failing us. And the teachers, we have to find a way to always tell our children who we are, who the ancestors were, create images so that they know that we did something, that we contributed to the growth and the wealth of this nation, and those brilliant people whose shoulders that we stand on. And keep faith, which is Imani.
Yeah.
Keep faith in knowing that this struggle continues, that it is something that is what we call rearing its head. I think the country, the world knows that this is the rise of African people. Do not be fearful. Keep talking. Tell our children every day who they're supposed to be. Those young gang members who are out there and they're aggressing upon themselves and ourselves, you should be of service to your people.
Well, let me ask you, Ayodele, you work or teach within the school system?
Yes, I do.
Don't you? Okay. So, well, you have a great amount of experience, having lived in Africa. Now you're working in the school system, so you're very credible. You hit the Imani, which is faith. Go ahead and hit Nia, would be the last one. Purpose.
Our children need to be asked.
Should we have a purpose? We
Yes,
must have
what is
a
your
purpose.
What do you want to do? Your purpose, as I said, they have to know who they are. They are constantly telling me, and when I tell them that they're Africans, they say, no, I'm not, because the image of Africa is something that they don't want, because as elders, as church people, as ministers, we have not told them that Africa is the beginning of all things, of all humanity, and that the Bible, the Quran, and everything else came out of Africa. It came from the Coming Forth by Day, the book of Coming Forth by Day. Our whole life, this whole world has an African genesis, and that they need to be told and retold. If the parents don't know it, send them to somebody that knows, that can tell. And the ministers, everybody has that responsibility. We cannot sit here and let the television entertain and miseducate our children. We must begin to talk to them.
Very good. Go ahead, Dr.
When it comes to love, we have to think in terms of
Go ahead,
how we're
Sister.
going to earn that love. And we earn that love by creating business, trade and commerce, and hiring our children. We'll get the love that we so desire. Until that happens, we're going to be fragmented. Our children are going to misunderstand their purpose and their aim in life. And they're going to think that they're born in this world to go work for somebody else.
We're asking everybody to please support Kwanzaa. Come out December 26th through January 1st and get a dose of love, light, peace, all of those things. Thank
Love
you.
power.
Love power.
One family.
Yeah. Greatest power on earth. It's been a great show. I hope you guys will come back.
We will.
Be with us. Hey.
You gonna put us on the spot?
Yeah, you got
And that is it.
some work to do.